Tonight's op-ed. Goofy? Yes. Spooky? Yes. And a guy shows up with a gun at a presidential town hall. If that's not dangerous, I don't know what is. Now, to do all of this justice, I have to show you this first tonight. Take a look at what happened inside the town hall meetings of Senator Arlen Specter and Senator Claire McCaskill today. Here it is.
You and your cronies in the government do this kind of stuff all the time. Well, I don't care.
I do not want to pay on a health care plan that includes the right for a woman to kill her unborn baby.
I don't want this country turning into Russia, turning into a socialized country.
What it says is, as a 74-year-old man, if you develop cancer, we're pretty much going to write you off.
You don't trust me? Hey! Okay, ma'am? Okay.
Fear, fear, and more fear. And outside the president's rally in Portsmouth, New Hampshire today, this was the scene. Wild Bill Hickok shows up. What is this guy's program? Can it get any worse? Well, it does. This is vandalism outside Congressman David Scott's office in Georgia. He held a town hall meeting a couple of nights ago. He was greeted with a 4-foot-tall swastika today. And this is how the president is being depicted in Maryland at Senator Ben Cardin's town hall meeting. Obama with a Hitler-like mustache. You know, this is not the country that we should be proud of right now. These folks have got to be distanced from the Republican Party. You would think that the Republican Party would step up and say, these aren't our people. This is all a product of the Republican fear-mongering that's taking place out there. This is really all the game that they have right now. It's a party without a message. So what happens? The fringe fills in the vacuum. Today, the president went on the offensive. I tell you, President Obama was on top of his game today. He hit on the 4 major points on all the talking points that they've been hammering the White House with. Medicare, death panels, public option, and taxes. I thought he did it with tremendous clarity. The big questions I've had, and someone asked it today, how are you going to pay for this reform? You're really all concerned about the money, aren't you? With Republicans, it's all about the money. Here comes a piece of truth from the president. Here's the answer.
It should not burden people who make $250,000 a year or less. And I think that's the commitment that I made, the pledge that I made when I was up here running in New Hampshire, folks. So I don't want anybody saying somehow that I'm, pulling the bait and switch here. I said very specifically I thought we should roll back Bush tax cuts and use them to pay for health insurance. That's what I'm intending to do.
Got that? Top 2%. You're going to get taxed if all this goes through. That means 98% of Americans, you don't have to worry about it. Middle classers, you're not going to get taxed when it comes to health care reform. He also pointed out that insurance companies are rationing care right now. The president threw the bullet points right back in their face today in a very classy manner and did it with the facts. Let's go to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Joining me now is NBC News political director and chief White House correspondent Chuck Todd. Aside from commentary, right to the facts tonight, Chuck. The president seemed very much in command today. Did it appear that way to you?
Well, I'll tell you, you look at outside, and frankly, the outside folks, the gun guy, and I want to say this, the gun guy was some kind of, New Hampshire's got plenty of live free or die guys. I think he was somebody that is out on the fringe and really had nothing to do with this health care debate. The rest of the protesters, for what it's worth, actually seem to keep a level head. And what that tells you is the office of the presidency. We're not seeing this with U.S. senators. We're not seeing this with members of Congress. But the office of the presidency, at least, is keeping people from going nuts.
And how are they doing that,
Yes, they're doing their vocal protest. Well, on the inside, for instance, I talked to one of the gentlemen that questioned President Obama, told me he did not vote for President Obama, does not like the idea of a public option, asked him about the public option. But, he wasn't screaming and yelling at the top of his lungs. I talked to a few other people at the town hall who were not supporters of the president, but were there to learn a little bit more about health care. So you could whatever it is about the office of the presidency, I think it created a different atmosphere inside, and it certainly the president himself, with the tone that he struck, I think, was an attempt to try to make sure everybody was keeping a level head about it.
Jug, everything that the Republicans and the whack jobs have been throwing at the president, Medicare is going to get cut, taxes are going to be going up, all of these things, it seemed like the president was really on a mission today to definitely address these particular issues. Did he accomplish that?
I think so. I mean, it was funny. He spent as much time, frankly, saying what's not in his plan. And he went down there. He's not going to cut Medicare benefits. He's not going to pull the plug on grandma. I think he tried to use humor on that. I think he tried to sell the public option, and I am curious. I know you're a big supporter of it. He used a comparison, frankly, that I think that's going to get him in trouble with postal workers, because he said, hey, check out FedEx and UPS. They seem to be beating the Postal Service, a government-run program, pretty well. It was sort of a weird way to compare it, because he's probably going to have a lot of mailmen very upset with him today.
Well, it's interesting. Senator McCaskill did the very same thing. I wonder if they weren't organized in how they wanted to present all this.
Well, and it brings up another point, Ed, is that one benefit the White House is taking from all this, and look, this has politically been tough to watch for them, watching some of their supporters have to take this heat, but they have been spending time to try to refine their arguments, to try to get better at pushing back at some of the things that they think they've been losing on. For instance, this idea of a death panel and all this seems to be something that has gotten out of hand. They have not been able to get their arms around it. And I think the president today and the White House feels better about pushing back on it today than they have in a while.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate your time on the Ed Show tonight. Thanks so much.
You got it.
I want to know what you think. Are the right-wing lies about health care reform starting to sink in? Text A for yes, B for no to 622-639. We'll bring you the results later on in the show tonight. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, who was at the president's town hall today. Senator, great to have you on tonight. The demeanor of the crowd, are they passionate in New Hampshire as they are in other parts of the country? And do you think the president really connected with the crowd today?
I think the president did a great job of correcting misinformation about health care reform, pointing out what are the benefits to middle-class families of getting health care reform. One of the things that I thought was most poignant about this afternoon's session was the woman who introduced the president, who talked about the fact that she has hepatitis C. Her ex-husband had it, and she's had a business of her own. She's done very well, and she can't find anybody to give her health insurance because of that pre-existing condition. And the president talked about the fact that there are insurance reforms that are going to be part of this health care plan that are going to benefit people like Lori and like so many people who have had difficulties with their insurance companies.
Does it make your state look a little fringy when a guy shows up with a gun outside a presidential town hall meeting, Senator?
Well, I think the earlier conversation is probably accurate, that he wasn't really here to talk about health care. And I didn't see him, so I don't know what his issue was. But I think the debate this afternoon was civil. It was respectful. It was the way it should be. As you heard, there were people who asked questions who didn't agree with the president, and he did a very good job of responding to those. And listen, this is an emotional debate. There are people, health care affects every single person in this country, and people care about it. And I think it's important to have a debate about it and about what goes in the health care plan. But we need to have that debate in a way that's civil, that's respectful, that gives people a chance to respond, and that, frankly, corrects misinformation.
Well, it's pretty interesting how this is not happening at Republican town hall meetings. It's only happening at Democratic town hall meetings. And, of course, it was much more controlled with the president today. Senator, good to have you on with us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.